Welcome to Kenny's Concepts, where the beauty of knowledge is our passion. On this channel, we share useful insights and tips to help you on your professional journey. If you haven't already, kindly like, share, and subscribe. So I'm super happy to be joined by two friends of mine, Stephen Price and Chris Miller, both of which have extensive experience in their own professional and personal development journeys, which they're going to be sharing right now. So guys, welcome to part 2 of this Millennial series, where we're actually talking about different things concerning millennials and the interaction between us and the generation before us and the generation after us. So in this one, we actually want to speak about, and again, I'm here with Stephen Price, Christopher Miller, both two good friends of mine. Chris is a budding entrepreneur, multiple entrepreneurial pursuits that have been serial entrepreneur. There we go, serial entrepreneur. And Stephen Price, and I'll link up all their handles below. But Stephen, amazing comedian, very funny, exploring a pursuit that is not as widespread as others. You know, he's not the typical banker or the typical lawyer. He's a creative, exploring his craft and doing amazing work there. So in this episode, we actually want to speak about some of the success failures and things that kind of lead our generation to failures in this time and now. And of course, we've been sharing the perspectives which we hold as millennials and as persons that have both succeeded and failed. So to kick it off, let's actually spin it to Chris and hear what he has to say.
Thank you, Paul. So for me, I take this personally because, there was a moment in my life where, I was in a position where I never thought I would be in, and, I think from a financial standpoint, right? So doing well, but personally I wasn't fulfilled, and the result of that was me leaving that opportunity to go and pursue what I thought would give me purpose. Looking back on that, it was a harrowing decision, but it's something nonetheless that I to this day I don't regret. It's very difficult. I'm sure Stephen will share his very own experiences, but just to hone in on the failures, I'd say one failure that millennials kind of shy away from is not taking the risk, right? I would say take the risk, but also make sure you be 100% honest with yourself about what that risk means to you and yourself, right? So you have to be honest with your evaluation of that risk. And I think that's something that our community, we frankly struggle with. Honesty is something that just escapes us, and it's far too easy for us to believe fallacies and things that just aren't true, or to follow in the path of other people who frankly we don't have those same privileges. So that's kind of what I would say. The other thing is you have to be focused. So I would say that's probably one of the top things. You need to have a solid sense of once you know who you are, then it's easy to figure out what you want to do, right? But to keep focused on that thing that you want to do, that's the hardest thing I feel like our generation has, because we have, as we said, access to information at overwhelming rates. So I think that makes our generation paralyzed by impatience, right? It's like we see these things at our fingertips and we want them now. Just as we're touching them on our fingertips, we don't have to actually touch them in real life. But we neglect the hard work that comes before it, right? So another failure, right, is that I think we have a tendency not to be realistic enough with ourselves, and we just wallow in our impatience, and the result of it is that we end up being too hard on ourselves. So the last thing I would say is oftentimes we are our own enemy, right? So it's there are a lot of personal barriers that we put in front of ourselves, personal checks and balances that we put we put on ourselves, and it's when you look at it objectively, it's unfair. It's like, it goes back to mindset. You need to put yourself in a position where you have that mindset that will allow you to thrive and succeed.
Nice.
and gain success, I guess is what I wanted to say.
Nice. So three things there Chris mentioned. First of which is actually, latter of which is actually being focused and actually staying focused on whatever your journey may be and is, right? And that's critical and that's important. But one question I want to ask you, Chris, do you think, as it relates to risk taking, which was your initial point, do you think that, because the theme of what you were mentioning as it relates to risk taking is calculated risk.
Yes.
So what do you say to people that just say, hey, take the plunge, just dive right in, get it done, take that big risk? What do you say? How is there a balance between actually calculation and actually just kind of overcoming fears and jumping right in?
What I would say off the jump is that's reckless. When people say take the plunge, I think that's very reckless, and that's something that you shouldn't say to the average person, because they assume away other things inherent in that risk, which you do need to actually sit and consider. You do actually need to put on paper. You do actually need to scope out how you mitigate and what you're going to do if things go south, right? You need to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. So just in case, you know exactly what to do. You have a plan, right? So it's, looping back, right? It's not having enough of a risk mitigation mindset, a risk averse mindset, a risk management mindset, right? I think in our community, it's not so much taking the risk, it's evaluating it, but in its true sense, right? Evaluating it for everything that it should be evaluated for. Not doing too much, but doing just enough. I think that's the thing that, we have to figure out, right? And, but we have this platform that we can use to have discussions and share experiences and figure a way forward, because that's exactly where we're headed.
Nice. So three things: take calculated risk, stay focused, and know yourself. So let's turn to Steven right now and let's hear his take on what are some of the failures experienced by millennials.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and I can only speak for myself, and some of the things that I have experienced, the main thing that I've noticed is that we tend to get caught up in a timeline, right? Like we should be achieving certain things by a certain timeline, where if you're able to take a step back and look at your life as the whole story, right? As opposed to it being, oh, I'm 32 and I don't have a house yet, I don't have kids, I'm such a failure. If you're able to look at your whole life as, let's say, all right, the average person nowadays will probably live to like 75 or whatever the thing is. All right, so you've had the first 32 years of your life to try to figure stuff out. If somebody told you, hey, Stephen, you'll be a millionaire at 50, or whatever the $1 million probably won't work when I'm 50, but whatever the amount is, if somebody tell you that, hey, at 50, that's when you will get the amount of money that will allow you to live a flourishing life, would you not take that? If somebody came to you and said, hey, keep driving, but it won't happen till you're 50, would you not keep driving? That's 18 more years. So if somebody told you today that you can start something that when you're 50, 18 years from now, you will flourish and it will be great, and you still have another 25 years just living lavish, would you not take that? But we get so caught up in the fact that, as Chris stated, we don't have a lot of patience. So, and a thing that kind of plays into that is, when you look at Instagram, or any social media, what I call a highlight reel, right? Because nobody is posting their failures on Instagram. Nobody's like, oh, my business didn't work, guys. Hey, I hope you like it. Everybody is posting all their successes and like, oh yeah, I just bought this and I just closed this business and this is going great. But they're not posting all the garbage that's happening to them. So when you see that and you're like, oh man, Paul just bought a house and he's 32. I'm like, what am I doing with my life?
Cheers to that.
Yeah. And it's easy to get caught up in that mentality, right? And then now you looking at yourself as if you're some sort of failure. Yeah. When my biggest thing is run your own race.
Yeah.
Right? When you're running your race, don't look at what the other person is doing, because it's not a sprint, it's a whole marathon. Like you're going, if you watch a marathon, the guy who runs out first is not necessarily the guy that's going to win. Now, not to say that there's somebody that's going to win at the end of all of this, but you know, you have to go at your own pace and trust that if you keep working at the thing that you want, eventually you will get the thing. And the final thing I want to say is you have to choose something to pursue that even if you don't get it, it was worth it. You know what I mean? That is how you know you've chosen the right thing. So let's say for me, comedian, right? If at the end of it, I never become this great successful comedian, would it still be worth it? Yes. All right. Then I've chosen the right thing. So that is what I'd like to say. It's just like, you know, you have to choose that thing where, you know, even if you fail at it for the rest of your life, you'd be okay with it.
Awesome, amazing, amazing, amazing. So first thing there is run your own race, right? Focus on your own journey and don't get too caught up into what everyone else is doing. And second thing is find what resonates with you. Find your passion, find what drives you, and just get at it. At the end of the day, as Steven said, likely the chances are that you will succeed, right? But even if you don't, you would have been happy throughout the journey and achieved happiness in your life. And fundamentally, that is what we're trying to do and trying to achieve. Happiness, that's the number one thing. Again, you know, I've been joined by Steven and Chris, entrepreneur, comedian, and entrepreneur. It's, you know, it's amazing, and we're here just trying to share insights and tips for our fellow millennials just to overcome whatever hurdles that may come by and actually achieve success. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay blessed.
Hey.